So we got a couple questions that we can go over today.
Cool. Shawn, I'll just keep mine on mute, though.
Oh, okay, okay. No worries. Yeah. I don't think I can give you COVID through the screen, though. I'm just kidding.
So I found a little place at the airport, so you might get occasional. You might get an occasional sound. So
sure thing, no problem, no problem.
So I'll keep it on mute, and then whenever it's my turn to answer, I'll hop back in.
Then you can jump in. Okay, perfect, man. Good stuff. How was the flight in though? It was good.
Oh, so no, we drove down. So my girlfriend's
drove down.
Daughter,
she's flying in. Gotcha.
No, it gets worse, Shawn. It gets worse.
Holy shit.
She's flying out. So she's going back to Brazil. But they didn't book it here in the States, and they booked it with their dad in Brazil, and he didn't book it out of Tulsa. So we had to drive all the way down to Dallas. And then yesterday, that was the problem. The flights going into Atlanta, because she was flying Delta, Atlanta was closed down. So the only choice was to come back, the next day.
That's crazy. Oh my God. Whereabouts in Brazil do they live?
Communication, right? Like, how hard is communication? And then you start mixing in all that. Like, it's just a disaster sometimes. You know how it goes. Like, it's brutal. Sao Paulo.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah. Right on. It's a huge country. I mean, it's massive.
Never been.
Yeah. But,
beautiful though. Yeah, the pictures they show me is gorgeous.
Yeah. It's funny, like the different types of problems people have. Like here, we got a snowstorm, so we're dealing with tons of snow. Down there, they have problems with monkeys jumping into the highways. Like, imagine you're driving and this monkey just jumps in front of your car.
Well, we got the moose too, right? We got the moose, so
that's true. The moose wins. Yeah, the moose wins. This is very true. Yeah.
With the snow?
Yeah. Because I've never seen a 1,200-pound monkey though. So I mean, the moose wins. Yeah, that's. But man, well, Marty, I hope they have a safe flight back, or she has a safe flight back, and everything goes well. Jeez, that's brutal, man. But yeah, so I forgot you're at the airport. That makes sense. I was like, why is he wearing a mask for the podcast? Makes perfect sense now. So we got some good questions today. We got a group here. Oh, I got some more people. I got to admit in waiting room. Admit. There we go.
But Shawn, unfortunately, I had to go with the Coke, and I couldn't smuggle in. I've got some blood and honey in the truck. I mean, in the Jeep. Yeah. And have you ever had blood and honey?
No,
it's from down here in Texas. Yeah, it's really good. They actually mix Texas honey into the beer.
No,
it's delicious. And I was like, I wonder if I could sneak some in. I was like, no, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Yeah. And I don't know if they'd let you do the podcast from the interrogation room. So
yeah.
That's awesome. Jeez, well, after the journey, that's when it's a celebratory. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Me this morning is just the OrbisX water, but I did have a shot this morning because my nephew was born this morning, actually, which is awesome. So it's their second kid. It's my brother-in-law. So they had their second one this morning, which is good. So I was kind of busy this morning, didn't get too much coding done, but sometimes that's the way life goes, right? So yeah, but we did get some great questions though. We got a few people have joined us today. So thanks everybody for being able to make it today. So we do have some questions, but one thing I do want to touch on, because Marty, you brought up a good point actually, is that with communication. So one of the questions was revolving around communication with leads and how to restart a conversation with someone that's ghosted you. And I think that a big thing is communication breakdowns of things. So for example, like with the traveling, trying to plan for that, one of the things that we always try and ask leads is if we haven't sensed their urgency already, we try and ask them when they're looking to get started with something. So I think that that's a kind of a good way to gauge how serious a lead is, and also how you can kind of take the reins and say, okay, did I get ghosted, or they were just kind of price shopping around right now because maybe they're getting a car. Sometimes people ask for, detailing and this and that because they're looking at buying a used car, but they haven't actually made the purchase yet. So technically they don't have anything to detail, and then maybe their financing fell through or something like that. But Marty, did you have any experience with ghosted leads in your shop side?
Yeah, I mean, anybody in sales, right? It could be detail. It could be, when I had a car wash. It could be, now in chemicals. you always have leads that you're chasing if you're into sales, and we should all be into sales, right? So
true. Sales first, yeah.
The thing about ghosted leads that happens all the time, what should you do? You should pick up the phone and call
them. Yep, 100%.
It really comes down to whether or not you want to take the time. If you thought they were a valuable enough lead, Shawn, I don't know about you, but I like to make notes whether I'm in person and I've done a cold call on somebody and I go back out to the truck and write notes, or if 100%. I'm doing it over the phone, I can write notes down and I can date it and stamp it. And then in a month, if I haven't heard from them, 2 weeks I haven't heard from them, whatever time frame it is that I want to put on that note, I can then go back to it and go, all right, was this person valuable enough for me to take time to go back and call them again? I probably should have made some notes and maybe even told myself in the future, yes, call this guy again on such and such date. And then it's up 100%. to me as the salesman who also has to be the owner of the company and run it. It's up to me to just pick up the phone and call them or go back and see them. That's how 100%. You go get ghosted. It's how you go get ghosted leads. You go back and re-energize them.
Yeah, that's true. And that's where one of the things I built in the system in OrbisX was the journal. And that way it functions different than notes because it is time-stamped and all staff members can access it. So whoever happens to be following up that day. And what we usually do is we look at our kind of schedule, how we plan things. We'll say, okay, let's try and jam-pack the start of our week with tinting jobs. And we do that on purpose because we know a lot of the tinting guys, they come in for tinting. We take a look at their interior and we're like, this thing's filthy. Let me book you in for a detail. But usually they've already allotted their time for that day. Let's say it's, 2 hours, 3 hours they need. So they don't have an extra hour or two to wait for a detail. So we book them in for later in the week. But if we don't have enough jobs for later in the week for one staff member or something like that, well, they're calling people. And that's exactly what we do. We say, listen, go through the leads, go through, all the cold leads that we've assigned, check the notes. And we put everything in there. Could be, if we heard a dog barking in the background, we make sure to put a note, customer has a dog. It might seem mundane and silly in a sense, but those little details help when you follow back up. You can even throw something out, be like, last time I called you, I got your voicemail and you were probably taking your dog for a walk, something like that. And it's a way of like, oh, geez, this guy's paying attention to things. And then on top of that, he's got an animal. You can be like, hey, listen, by the way, if you bring your vehicle in for a tint, I know we were talking about that, maybe price kind of scared you off. I don't know what it was, but if you bring it in, I bet you we can take care of some of that pet hair for you at no cost. It takes an extra 15, 20 minutes on the job, but he's going to be happy. It'll help close the deal. So little incentives like that. But that's where the notes really help in putting everything in there. Just document your journey so that, a month or two that passes, when you follow up on that cold lead, you're not going in blind. You're not just calling up some random guy. You've got some context that you can follow up with. So little things like that, do they have a spouse? How many cars do they have? The particular type of car they were calling about. Take notes and you can start to build the customer profile and you can kind of gauge, depending on the car they have, ask them what their profession is. That's a good thing we always do too. Say like, hey, what do you do for a living, Scott? Listen, you get to chatting, put that in the notes. Maybe he's an Uber driver. And then when you follow up again, be like, listen, you've probably been swamped, man. Like it's that time of year. Nobody wants to cook. You're probably out there driving Uber all the time, but hey, listen, it's time we get you booked in for that ceramic coating and let's make this happen. So all those notes help. But,
and to get a cold lead, because if they're ghosted, they're cold, right? So to get that lead warmed up, 2 little things that they can do easily off the entry calls. First off, don't ask them how their day is. You need to get them to agree that it's a good day, right? You got to get them started by saying yes, right? Not how's your day? Oh, well, my day, da, da, da. You might say, hey, John, your day's going great, right? Yeah, it's going really good. And then just get them down that trail of yes, yes, yes.
100%.
Shawn, that's how you sell a pen, right? Yep. This comes off of, if anybody of you have listened or watched the movie Wolf on Wall Street, he writes a book then, and he talks about that getting right back into them is getting them straight into the yes mode. How do I get them to constantly keep saying yes? So first off, your day's going great. Yes. Okay. Last time we talked about blah, 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 blah. And that's where coming into the notes and what you were writing down. Exactly. I just wanted to throw that in. Like that's a good transition into that moment. Oh, it's going a great day. That's wonderful. Hey, last time we talked, boom.
Exactly.
So,
that's so true though. And you have to almost be like a lawyer. Like they say, never ask a question you don't know the answer to, right? And so, you know, when you get the people on the stand and, you know, you ask them questions, you got to try and follow them down the yes train too. It's the same kind of thing in sales. You got to, so asking them, oh, how's your day going? You just opened up the floodgates for all kinds of stuff. You know, he might be like, actually, this is the worst day of my life. But no, when you talk to him, it's got to be the best day of his life. He's making the best decision ever for his vehicle, you know? So yeah, that's good feedback, actually. Great movie too.
Great movie.
Watch it with the kids, but great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What was the next question?
So next question was how to speed up details. This one varies quite a bit depending on the scenario. Some guys are in shops, some guys are mobile. So there's differences there. In the shop, I find personally it's just a little bit easier to speed up work because number one, you usually have more than one person working with you. And number two is that as vehicles are coming in, you can kind of tag team things because it's at the same location. So you could do things like, you know, wash all the exteriors at the same time, things like that. Mobile's a little different because of logistics, like travel time, so on and so forth. But there's still definitely ways to speed things up. I'll start off by just saying the number one thing that I noticed with our shop, for example, and even with our mobile jobs, the first thing we do is we set the expectations. And that helps kind of box the customer into a certain time frame. So instead of just saying every job is going to be showroom ready, we ask the customer, we say, listen, if we were a genie and we could give you 3 magic wishes, what 3 things would you want us to focus on for your vehicle? And that's going to be the focus. And then when they tell us what they are, you know, remove this stain or something like that, then we say, okay, well, listen, we're going to focus on that. But it means that maybe, you know, that you know, the trunk, we're going to give it a clean, but it's not going to be the focus of our day. So that pet hair that's back there, you didn't mention that. That's not our focus. So we make that clear to them what things they can expect to see when they get back to the vehicle. And that helps cut down our time because reality is they're only paying a certain amount. If they do say, well, I actually want all of it clean, okay, no problem. This is going to be a longer job and let's, you know, rediscuss the price kind of thing. But Marty, what's your take on speeding things up?
So speeding things up inside of a detail, I come at it in a couple ways. If those of you that listen to the Pints and Polisher podcast, we actually just talked about the need for processes, right? How important it is to have your processes. And this is what's interesting, Shawn, because I consider detailing an art, right? Like, and if I'm a detailer, then, well, who puts a time frame on my artistic expression, right?
That's true.
But then I need processes because I got to speed things up, right? So there's a little bit of a dilemma here, right? Which goes back to some of the stuff that you and I've talked about in the past, right? Why do people detail the way they do? Why do they put out the photos there? Why do you do the certain things that you do? Should it be about the artistic expression? Should it be about how you put your work onto a car? And I want to do all this levels of correction and I want to beautify it out down to the T. From my views, I don't know. I mean, this is the dilemma.
It is a dilemma. So
if you want to speed up how you detail, you just do processes. That's the answer to the question.
100%.
Do better processes, and you'll speed it up. The
100%.
dilemma is, are you running a business, or are you a solopreneur that just wants to put out their artistic expression into the world through the canvas of a car?
That's true. Because there are businesses out there that only focus on certain, you know, vehicle types. Like I know one guy, he only does classic cars. He preps them for, you know, like shows and things like that, magazine, you know, spreads, all kinds of stuff. And he only works on those vehicles. He takes days with a vehicle just for a cleaning. And it's there because he goes over every single thing with a fine-tooth comb. Like it's phenomenal. When it's finished, it's phenomenal. But he's made a decision. He does it for the love of it. He loves the final results. He loves the product that he's, you know, the final product he's making. But business-wise, that does become difficult, you know, to sustain itself. You know, like if he was to hire employees, for example, it's really hard to systemize that as a business. So that guy, he'll never franchise. He'll never, you know, grow to multi-locations, things like that. But he's okay with that because that's what he wants. So I think a big part of it is a discussion first with yourself. Like, what are my goals with this business? what do I want to do? If your goal is to work the business forever, then you can be a part of that. And you can still hire people to do the process stuff. And then you could come in as like the touch-up guy, and you come in and you do the part that you love. But if your goal is to completely systemize it and then step back, like I've done in my shop, you got to kind of draw that line in the sand where it's, okay, we're going to go for a certain thing. Now, what we've done is we've separated. So we've taken one entire bay now, and it's basically just focusing. We have one guy, he brings us his McLaren, brings it every Friday. Him, for example, we usually don't work Sundays, but for him, we might stay open a little later. We might do this and that, depending on what he's got going on in his life. That's the more artsy side of things we do. We also do our wraps over there as well. But when it comes to the cleaning, like the guy with the Honda Civic who's driving Uber, he does not care about all that stuff. So we've separated the business, kind of like how a business would separate their retail from their wholesale customers. We've done the same thing where we have sort of our wholesale division, that's our process-based quick cleans. I wouldn't even call them details. It's detailing, but it's not, we don't include, like sometimes we don't even touch the tires. Like it depends. We talk to the customer, see what their needs are, what they want. Sometimes it's just a quick interior, boom, make it look good. Other times it's a complete, basically overhaul of the vehicle. Everything comes with a different price point and a different time commitment. And you really need to, if you want to do both, you have to separate those two processes out, and they have to come with different price points. So on ours, we keep it simple. We've got our standard cleans, and then we have just our VIP wash, and then that's it. They've got those two options. The VIP one, showroom ready. We go over the whole vehicle. It's going to look like it just rolled off the dealership. And then everything else is just standardized. We're going to ask you what 3 things you want to fix, and we're going to focus our attention there. And then everything else gets kind of half our attention.
So, and I bet you the question came from a young kid that I think you even said he's taking 6 hours on a car, and he should be
5
taking
to 6
4,
hours. 5 if he
5 to
pushes.
6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it is common with some people. They're just taking way too long on the car.
Yeah.
So to answer his specific question for him, I would imagine we go back to the processes. I would imagine he needs to go through and write with like a little bullet points, every single thing that he does.
Mm-hmm.
It might be doing too much, or he could just recategorize as he goes around the vehicle. There's something interesting I've learned, and this is a weird thing. It's a weird thing to think about, but as I've been playing more Fortnite,
okay,
right, and I watch more people that play that are more of elite, streamer people that do really well.
Sure.
There's a handful of them that always go back to the exact same location.
Okay.
They always go when they play the game. They always go to that part of the map, and that's how they start. That's the way they feel that they have the best rhythm to go through the game. Okay. So think of it that way in detailing too. I really should, even though I'm an artist and I want to express myself by my cleanings, I really should start at the exact same spot every time, and I should do the exact same thing over and over and over. And I really shouldn't deviate from it. As soon as I pick up my power washer, if I'm going to start on the car on the outside first, I should always do it the same way. The more you get into a rhythm, the faster you'll go. It really is about repetition at this point. It's the same as in baseball, right? Like you got to train your muscles. You got to train your mind. You got to train yourself to just produce more and more and more. So you stay in a rhythm, you stay in exact pattern, and then you just speed up. And the thing that can really help speed you up at that point is to then look at what are you using, right? Superior products might be really cheap, but is it the best for speeding things up? I don't know, right? Like that would be the point where you start to analyze, well, what am I using that maybe could, maybe my interior cleaner I could use in a couple different ways instead of just using a specific one to do it this way, right? Like maybe my quote unquote wheel cleaner I could also use as a multi-purpose cleaner. I could spray it on my wheels, tires, fenders, and I could start, instead of having one cleaner for every little thing, right?
100%.
Get some products that might be more universal and I can use throughout the vehicle.
That's true.
That would help them speed up too, from walking back and forth all the time or always needing some new product. Like get some more universal
100%.
things to use, and that'll help speed up while you're going around your process.
100%. Yeah, that's what we did in the beginning too. When we started the shop, we just got every product we could think of and every product we could find, and we tried them all, tried to figure out which ones we liked the most, and some things worked well, but they came in like too small a size, or some things worked well, but they required us to, you know, like manually dilute it. We couldn't put it through our machine that, you know, mixes everything for us. Like, just, we went through everything to find the products that were going to be most effective and most efficient. And we did the same thing. So like, we use Tornadors a lot. We love those things. And we put all kinds of stuff in the Tornador. The main reason though, is just for the ease of, it's easy to pull a trigger like that. And then the machine does the work to get it out versus having to, you know, squeeze the bottle every time. After 3-4 cars, your hands are just killing you. Right. So we found ways of doing stuff like that. Stop it. Oh, geez. You're in an airport, Marty. Can't speak freely. So, but it, yeah, so, you know, we did things like that, and then we documented the whole process. Now, the thing is, I had to train employees when I was stepping away from the business and going to have them run it. So what I did is I printed out cards. So I literally printed out and I put little pictures of, like, you know, mats, picture of wheels, picture of this, picture of that. And then we put them in order. And I said, this is the way we're doing things. I want you to go and clean a car exactly this way. And then I want you to clean a car your own way. So you take those same cards, because all those pieces need to be done, but you go through and you do it your way. And what we found is that some of the guys were really good at following our exact process. Others were a little better when they kind of went to the beat of their own drum. So we did sort of a mixture between the two, because at the end of the day, as long as they're accomplishing all of those pieces, I don't care what order they're done in necessarily. But we did find that, you know, there was a certain way, like, you know, going from top, bottom, things like that helped a lot. I've seen people, they've asked questions, you know, when should I vacuum? How should I start? Should I start from front to back? That kind of stuff doesn't really matter too much, to be honest. But what does matter is knowing that you're going to make a mess of the vehicle as you're cleaning it. And so gravity, just work with gravity. Gravity, things are going to fall down. So it makes sense to go top, bottom, but front to back doesn't matter at all. For us at our shop, it made sense to do the trunk first, because the trunk was going to be our storage system. So basically, we can't have people's belongings just laying all over the place, stuff like that, especially if you're a mobile guy. You know, you could take them all out of the vehicle if the customer hasn't done that. But now you've got them sitting in the driveway, you're walking around them, you have to shuffle these things back and forth. It's better just take everything out, start with the trunk, put it all in the trunk. The customer now knows all their stuff's in the trunk. And that's where we put the mats. So the first thing we do, spray off the mats, we clean the mats. Those go in the trunk, we wrap them in a bag. Done. That's where they can sit, and they're going to be soaking wet. Not a problem. It's fine. Customer gets home, the post instructions we give them, tell them, take them out, let them dry, then put them back in your vehicle. But that's where we start, and now you've got kind of this blank slate with the vehicle. And so that's what we found very helpful. But we do use Tornadors quite a bit. And one of the first things we do is basically just use it on just the air mode. So it basically just blasts stuff throughout the vehicle. So that's what we found to be most helpful. But I'm curious, does anyone else have feedback on their processes or something they're struggling with? Joseph, I knew you were going to.
Well, I mean, I think it's all about efficiency, right? Being 100%. Mobile, what we do is, let's say for the interiors, we start with the driver. Okay. And everything within reach there gets done. So you're sitting there, you're starting with the dashboard, right? Well, kind of like you said, you look at the headliner, right? So if the headliner is dirty for whatever reason, you know, the visors, so you work your way from top to bottom, dashboard, and towards yourself. Okay. And as you're doing that, right, you're detailing the console, the dashboard, the steering wheel, etc. Once that's done, then you step up. So let me backtrack a bit. So before that, you're sitting down. Beside you have all your tools, right? You have your APC, your microfiber towels, your brushes, et cetera, right? So once you're done detailing that portion, you step out. Then you're detailing the seat. Let's say if it's a seat shampoo, you know, if that's part of the package, you're doing that. Then you're moving down, right? So kind of like what you said, you're moving from top to bottom, follow gravity. And then you're doing the carpet. Once that's all done, you work on the door panel and you do the windows. That whole driver's side area then is done. Move on to the back, right? If you have two people, the nice thing about that is you can have, you know, one person kind of doing one side. Yeah, section it off, you know. But, you know, having two people, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to save 50% of the time, right? It's not necessarily, you'll save some time, but it's not necessarily, you know, 50% savings, right? So that's kind of the process. But, you know, each person, each company is going to have their own.
Yeah, what we found too is, because we put 2 people on every detail, and most times, but what we found is when they were each sort of left to do the same tasks, like they're each cleaning windows and they're each cleaning seats and they're each vacuuming, we found it actually slowed us down versus having just one person do the whole car. It was almost the same amount of time. And we were like, how is this possible? There's 2 people on it. So what we do now instead, because we'll have 4 cars going at any time, we've got one guy, he goes around, all he's doing is vacuuming. And that's all he does. Boom, 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 boom. He goes and vacuums. And then so we basically separated. One guy's responsible for dirt removal and the other guy's responsible for making things look nice. And that's kind of how we separate the 2. And they work really well that way. It was kind of amazing to us, to be honest. I thought for sure, put 2 people on it, oh, this is going to go twice as fast, you know, not the case at all.
No, but and it's exponentially worse with 3 people. We tried it once and
you tried.
Forget that. It's just then you start getting in the way. You need, you know, triple the amount of tools and products, and it just the efficiency is not threefold.
It's true, 100%.
Yeah, if I could jump in for like half a second here.
Yeah, of course.
So what we did was I created these, so I just printed them and then I had them laminated and everything. So it's just a checklist.
Beautiful.
So what it does is it walks through. We write this service here, and then through here, it's literally like you're going to do your vacuum, clean your plastics, clean your cup holders, then you're going to go to shampoo, clean and condition the leather, because your plastics are going to get dirty anyways. Anytime that we have something, this goes on, the customer's aware of what they're doing. It goes with the vehicle, so it travels with the vehicle at all times. Once it hits the front, we know it's good. And then what we can do is if we have, sometimes we'll have like 3 or 4 even detailers on one vehicle, right? We'll pump them out in like 15, 20 minutes. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
But everybody jumps on a different thing. So one person's responsible for vacuum. Well, one's, you know, cleaning plastics, and somebody's following and they're shining plastics. Somebody else is going afterwards, and then they're starting the shampoo once the vacuum's done. The person that was vacuuming is now doing windows, and it just rolls through that way. So everybody has a responsibility. So that way, if you're doing the exact same project at the exact same time, you're essentially just, all you're doing is duplicating your time, like your manpower in one spot, one situation, right? So
beautiful.
Doing this for 17 years, I've figured out how to like manipulate people to certain positions where they can do stuff. So
yeah, that's amazing, man. Jeez. So do you feel you have any bottlenecks now, or because there is a point where you kind of reach like maximum efficiency of sorts, you know?
The biggest bottleneck I find, honestly, is when we have, like, we'll have 3 detailers on one vehicle, so they're hammering them out fast. And then the biggest thing is when they have to go to a solo detail, and they can just slow down a little bit. All of my employees, when they first start, they go through a training regimen of this is how it's done, this is how we do it, step 1, step 2, step 3, and they kind of go. But in saying that, when they're doing that, they all have a stopwatch with them. So it's like you literally have, you have 30 minutes to vacuum. That's your most crucial point. This is what you do. If you go over the 30 minutes, you got to cut your time somewhere else. So you're going to have to figure out how to be faster and more efficient on your next thing. And as they kind of go through the process, they figure it out. Most of my staff now, they don't need the time watch anymore. They kind of know, okay, this is an interior. If I'm doing it solo, it's 3 hours. If there's 2 of us, it should be an hour and a half or less. So that's kind of how we've always directed it. So the bottleneck now is just literally space. So
that's a luxury problem to have, my friend.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, that's awesome. And I think, yeah, because it's same at our shop. Like we've kind of reached a point where, like we're so efficient now. We've got it to the point where one guy's banging out a full detail in an hour and 6 minutes. I've tried to make it faster, and it's just not possible. Not without sacrificing quality, But we didn't get almost 800 5-star reviews by doing that. So, so I got to keep the quality going. But it's to that point, and what we've started to do is just kind of change things up a little bit. And what we're doing now is, so we've got one guy that he'll basically do details on his own, and he's pumping them out at that speed. But then we have other ones where they're always working as a pair. And we find that that's working out the best because we had to change things up a bit with COVID. We had some people that, like if they came into contact with something, government said they have to be home for 14 days. So I was like, well, what do I do? The guy wants to come work, but he can't come work. So through that process, though, we found out that some of them were actually more efficient working on their own. So that was how we solved, like, my most recent bottleneck was just realizing that, if some guy can pump out work, let him do his thing, fly, you know what I mean? But the other guys, they weren't doing so well. But yeah, we haven't had too many bottlenecks lately, aside from we're cross-selling some different services. And the bottleneck I'm having, which maybe this will help some people brainstorm some ideas, but when we cross-sell services, we've realized that we need to cross-sell them in a certain way, because sometimes the customer says, yeah, that sounds great. I actually have nothing to do this afternoon. You can keep my car. I want it done now. And we just, sold them something that we actually needed 8 hours, but we only have 6 hours left or something like that. So we're realizing that we need to kind of force people down a different upsell path. So I don't know if that's maybe something anyone else has experienced too, but we cross-sell a lot. Like a detail comes in, we sell them a windshield replacement or a tint or something like that. But we find that we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot at times. Or let's say, sell someone a full tint and they're like, oh, that's perfect. Let's do it today. We're like, shit, and then what we found is when we tell them, like, well, actually, I can book you in for Thursday. They're like, yeah, well, I don't know if I'll want it by Thursday. And I'm like, what the hell kind of answer is that? Of course you're going to want it by Thursday. So but usually we still get those sales anyways. But I'd say that's our next bottleneck hurdle that I have to overcome somehow. Because it's tough when staff do different things like that. If everyone in the shop tinted, no problem. But, since they don't, I don't know. I think, Darren, you do a bunch of stuff, right? I think your shop's similar to mine. Like you do tinting and all that stuff as well, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Do you guys cross-sell a lot as well?
Yeah, like today we had a guy come in, check for a price quote. We were able to book him in for an interior detail, and then from there, literally as my guy was driving him home, upsold him on 2 front window tints, and then we were kind of working on like glass transparency and stuff like that. So basically, nice. What we did for that situation was the one tinter was already working on something. Since he sold it, he gets a commission on it. So away he went, he tinted it right in the detail bay. And then the detailer is working on it now while the tinter's helping her. So that way they're
working together on it.
Advantage of it, right? So
yeah,
that's usually what we do. If we have like a tint and a detail at the same time, we usually try to wait until after the wiping process is done, but before the finishing is done. So it's kind of like a little pause, but they can work on other stuff, right? Like if it's 2 front windows, they're working on the back and they're kind of just chasing each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a lot of moving parts, but it is possible. So
yeah. How many tinters do you have there?
We have 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Same with us. Yeah. Right on. Yeah. Well, we have a third that's like a floater, but he does mostly like, if we get like F-150s or something, like mostly flat glass.
Yeah.
Like we don't put them on any like hatchbacks or anything like that.
Yeah, we're kind of the same way. Like my brother-in-law is my tint manager, so he does most of the back windows and that, like the harder stuff. And then our other tinter, he's a little junior, but he was our detailer before, so we were able to move him up into tinting. So obviously he makes a little bit more money, has a little bit more of a career path for himself. So we can utilize him in different spaces, but then he'll do kind of the easier stuff, right? And then as he learns and trains and stuff like that, then basically Matt moves up, and then like our guy Zach will move up, and somebody else from the detail will come up and learn tint, right? So just cross training over time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, you know what we did to solve the hatchback problem? We had with the Civics, for example. We don't get many of them anymore, thank God. But what we did is because we already we install windshields, right? So we got a windshield from our supplier of the actual hatchback, and we just kept it on hand. And then whenever we got a tint for this, we just pull it out, put the film on it, shrink it on there, and then we'd install it. It was beautiful.
We looked at that option too.
Okay, yeah. It helps, and then but some of the Corvettes, like the older ones, we just say no. Like it's just things like a half circle, man. It's like a spaceship. It's just not happening.
Yeah. We try to price it to the point where like if they really want it, they're going to pay for it. But if we make a mistake twice, it's still paid for, right?
Then it still pays for it. Yeah.
If we do it once, then hey, we made a little bit extra. We give the customer a little bit of a break on the price. They're happy because it's less than what they paid, but like we're still making some money on it too.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, that's perfect, man. So what would you say is something that I kind of answered the other questions here, but we still have some time. So I can, is there something you guys or yourself that could be helpful? I'm a wealth of knowledge over here.
In terms of general topics, or in terms of this topic here that we were just finishing off? Because I mean, one of the things, the segue that Darren kind of pointed out, that's a segue to what I think you're working on is SOPs, right? Yeah, exactly. SOPs, the checklist, right? That leads to that. So that made me think about that, and looking forward to that. Right?
I was coding it literally before this call.
There you go. Does anything you can shed some light on that, or you'll
absolutely.
surprise element for us?
No, absolutely. Excuse me. So it actually would have been done today. However, I took a pause last week and I did the stats stuff. And the main reason for the stats stuff was because a lot of members that signed up, a year ago, stuff like that, they've got a lot of data in there, and I wanted them to be able to start making, better marketing decisions for 2022. The time to start doing that is now. So I realized the checklist, while that's, going to be fantastic, and I'll explain them in a minute, the data is just going to help out a lot more, I think, so that's why I put a rush on that and just bang that out. By the way, that will get a lot more detailed and a lot more, options added as usual. I launch something and then continue to improve. But the checklist, Checklists are going to be something I'm pretty pleased with. It won't necessarily replace the printed version in some aspects because, as Darren's doing, it's nice to have a leave behind in the vehicle. Like we do the same thing as well. But it could, you could print it out. However, it's designed kind of in two ways. So there's going to be toggles that you can have so you can make it shareable or not with the customer. And then that way, if you do make it shareable, instead of having to give them a leave behind, they could actually access that virtually as well. So it could be sent to their email of, what work was completed. They'll be able to view it online, and they'll be able to view that in real time, just like when you order a pizza and it shows you, Ramen's putting it in the oven and now they're picking it up, they're delivering it. It'll show you the progress like that as well.
Cool.
So that's coming, and you'll be able to assign different checklists per service or package as well. So you could have, 3 checklists for one job, and that way different staff, if you have one guy that's doing tinting, one guy doing detailing, or maybe even you have 2 guys doing a detail, but one's exterior, one's interior, you'll be able to put those in separate checklists. And how it'll work is it'll automatically assign to a job. It doesn't mean that they have to use it. It depends on your structure and your organization. But if, let's say someone books for a detail and a tint, for example, if there's checklists for each of those services, it'll automatically add them to the job. And then when they click on to view the appointment details, there will be a section that says checklists, and it'll show each checklist with the percentage complete. And then they'll be able to click on it, and it'll be simple, just check boxes. They can just click with their thumb and then mark it done. And there's 2 aspects to it. It's not just checklist tasks, but there's also sort of percent complete labels as well. I think that's what I call them, is labels. But nice. Anyway,
they're weighted out each task. Like you can have some weighting on it, or it's just a general. It's 10 tasks, each one's 10% or whatever. Yeah, I broke it down into 20%, and so there's 5 labels that you can have. You don't have to use all 5. You could set just 3 of them if you want, right? But it lets you know, like this one is 0 to 20%. This one is this or that. And so let's say it's detailing. You've got 5 labels. You could have removing debris, cleaning the exterior, cleaning the interior, final touch-ups, and then prepping for delivery, something like that. And then that way it shows the customer horizontally the 5 steps, like step 1, 2, 3, and the percentage. But then within that as well, you can have unlimited tasks, and you can drag and drop them, reorder them, all that kind of stuff as well. So it's going to be pretty sophisticated, and it's 95% done. The 5% is me testing so that I don't get a million messages from Joseph. You'll get maybe 100,000 messages.
Yeah, maybe 100. This isn't working. This isn't working. There's a typo. You put 3 P's in apple. So, but it's good. You know what? I like it because, as you can see, I actually really do appreciate feedback and input. I don't have an ego at all, and it just doesn't exist. So there's nothing, like even my staff, I tell them, tell me straight if something isn't working right or something's not done the way you want it or something like that. Just shoot me straight, because I need them to be able to be honest. I have to be able to trust my staff, and I have to be able to trust their feedback. The reality is, someone can tell me their opinion or feedback. I can internally disagree with it. That's okay. You know what I mean? But I need to know the feedback still, right? Yeah. And so that's where it's helpful. And honestly, 99.99% of the feedback and suggestions from the group are helpful, always. And that's where I try and exude that when I reply back.
And when you respond to that, it further perpetuates people in this forum to keep giving you the feedback, right? Because you said you don't have an ego and so on. And
exactly.
We all appreciate that, right? Otherwise, if you're going to be an a-hole, right? Who's going to want to work with you? And you know, keep your 3 peas in the apple, right?
Yeah, exactly.
See how professional you're.
Exactly. Yeah. And well, that's what I realized. You know?
I originally talked to Shawn about this like a year and a half ago when he started up OrbisX and was like grabbing some heat from it and stuff. And at the time, I was being bullheaded, and I'm a very impatient person. So I was like, nope, I'm gonna try something else. Everybody else is ranting and raving about this other CRM. Yeah. So I went that way. And at first it was okay. And then I was like, hey, you know, you guys got to get like better reporting. You guys got to add this. You guys should add this. You guys should add this. And I'm not a junior at this. I've been doing this for 17 years. And I literally built my business out of a cardboard box. So like when I'm saying this, it's not, I don't want it to go off cold shoulder. But the thing is, then it started getting to the point of like, nope, we're not doing that. Nope, that doesn't make sense. No this, no that. And like, I love that I can message Shawn, or I can post on the group and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And like get everybody's input, because I did that once on the other CRM. And then they literally started blocking everybody from putting anything on there. Yeah. And they would like, if they didn't like what you were saying, they would tell you to get a hold of them through their chat. But like a lot of the time I'm looking at this stuff at home, right? And I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't go on the live chat for them. And then all of a sudden it became a really big whirlwind. And I was like, you know what, to better my business, I got to find something else. And then of course I jumped on with Shawn. And since then, like, honestly, my business has like upscaled. My team feels better. Like my team's actually like working on these upsells. They're working on this, they're working on that, because they see the outcome, right? And they're just loving it. So that's awesome.
Fantastic, man.
And the key word is adaptability. And you know, now we're kind of putting Shawn a bit on a pedestal, but rightfully so.
Well, now I have an ego.
But rightfully so, because I think Darren's speaking to it, and you see it in the comments from the forum. And I know we're digressing here, but the point is that you're adaptable to our feedback. Unlike 100%. All these other vendors out there, I've tried a few too, you know, which I've shared some comments with you directly, Shawn.
As a robot should be. As a robot should be.
It's a robot. Yeah, exactly.
An AI robot, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's the bottom line.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you hear our feedback, and, you know, because you have the experience for sure, but like you have the humility to realize, look, you might not have all the answers.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Neither do any of us, right? So you hear the feedback from us and you incorporate it, as you said.
100%.
As best as you can. Right?
And you know what? It's funny, like, because I look at this business in such a different way. Like a lot of people, they assume like, oh, you know, like in the beginning, as Darren said, I was getting a lot of heat. Like people were like, oh, this guy's a scammer, or he's this, he's that, and all kind of stuff. And honestly, that's why I was like, guys, just it's yours for a year. Like I'm paying the server costs. I pay for every email that gets sent out from the system, like all these things, all my development time into it. I've even done giveaways. I don't know, Darren, if you saw in the Facebook groups, but I used to do giveaways in the beginning when I started up. I was mailing people like 1,000 business cards. I went in and I was like, hey guys, I genuinely want to help people out. The first 10 people that comment, tell me your story, I'll send you 1,000 business cards right to your door. I designed them, shipped it to them. I sent people A-frame signs, all kinds of stuff, because I genuinely want to help people. But I also realized the group helps me a lot too. There's been suggestions of, hey, it would be cool if the software did this. I build it. Next thing I know, one of my staff is like, man, I saw you added that in the software. Thank God. And I didn't even know. He didn't even know he needed it. And then now it's there. And it's like, so I'm actually benefiting from the group as well, because it's helping my own business, you know? So and that's where you build a product that's good, helps people, the money will come. You know what I mean? So for me, it's more build something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Longer midterm investment. Yeah.
Exactly. Sure. And to be honest, throughout my whole entrepreneurial career, I've been in so many different industries and directions. That's where my experience comes from. But at the same time, I always want to learn more. I'm always learning. And finally, I have sort of one project I can focus my attention on. And that's why it's doing so well, is because I give it my all. Whereas before, you know, like at one point we had 12 companies. We used to own part of a radio show in California. Like I sold that. We had all kinds of stuff. I didn't want it. We acquired it as part of an acquisition, and they owned 30% of this radio show. So we just ended up with it, but it was the radio. So, I mean, had to go. But, you know, there's just been all these things, and it's nice to finally, you know, but you guys can really actually thank the Yellow Pages, because a long time ago when I was 24, not a long time, when I was 24, I built some software before they did the radius stuff where you could search like a restaurant. Now it's common. You search for, you know, pizza, and it pulls up all the pizza shops, tells you how far they are from where you are. Before that existed, I had actually programmed something, and the Yellow Pages wanted to buy it. and they were offering a lot of money. My business partner at the time got into an argument with them over 1%. They were fighting. They didn't even want the whole company. They wanted me to stay on. They wanted something like 13.9%, and he was arguing with them for less. Anyway, had that deal gone through, I probably would have just retired and not done anything. So thank you, Yellow Pages.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're here and we're all here, so that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I think pretty much I answered those questions. But of course, I want to start doing these more. But what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do a Q&A type thing, answer some questions. But I'm realizing sometimes we can bang out the questions pretty quick. Oh, wait, I just had an interview for detail. Stay on. Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, Darren, good stuff. But I think what I might do is sort of structure it different, where one half I'll go over some like Q&A stuff, and then I'll also maybe dive into the actual software itself and show how we're setting things up at our shop, how we're doing it, or even just like, hey, I want to know how do I do this, or what's the best way to do this. I can share the screen and I can go through and, you know, click and stuff like that. And maybe even some like sneak reveals of like new features that are in the works. You know, I could do that as well. I got to reward you guys that are showing up, you know, so it's absolutely.
Shawn,
Marty, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Joseph.
No, I was just going to ask if there's time to talk about scaling.
Okay,
I
sure.
know that's a huge topic, and I don't know if we have 10 minutes left. I'm not sure what the time frame is for this, but
I'll do what I can in 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, no, it's a huge topic. I know there's a million factors, but I would think, I could only imagine, you know, those that are solopreneurs, either they just started or they're in transition to wanting to, you know, scale up, to hire staff, to maybe get a shop. Maybe, you know, some of these people have started or are starting as a mobile detailer. I'm kind of in the middle of that. I'm kind of experiencing that transition now.
Okay, sure.
So maybe I can give some feedback, but I'm also here to learn and hear from anybody, you know, who's done that transition from, you know, that single person and gone to hiring staff, gone to getting the shop, you know, and of course, assuming all the financials are there, like, and we don't need, you know, we need to vet out the obvious. You have to have some kind of forecasting in terms of knowing that you're going to have, you know, X amount of revenue. You got to do your number crunching, right? Sure. But I think for a lot of us, solopreneurs, I think the biggest hurdle, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody here, is just that fear of letting go of quality. The risk of, you know, letting go of that quality, you know, things that you've built on your own. You know, for example, on my side, you know, I've built with my son as legitimate staff, you know, being on the payroll, government, all of that stuff. You know, we built, you know, 45 5-star, you know, Google business in a little bit over a year. And obviously, OrbisX is going to, you know, get me to 700, 800.
100%.
Right?
100%. But still impressive, because I know the ratio for how many jobs to how many reviews you get. Yeah. So that's impressive. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's about, you know, maybe one out of 4, 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 4, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not like we've done a lot of details, right? And we even started part-time.
Sure, which is amazing. And plus, the thing is, too, repeat customers, once they've left a review, you might see that customer another 20 times. They're not leaving you 20 more reviews, right? Exactly. So that's where... So
I think that biggest hurdle, Shawn, is that taking the guts to letting go, to hiring staff. And, you know, I kind of asked you a little bit here and there offline, even a little bit on the last week's podcast on, you know, staff quality, what to look for, retention, you know, should we even care about that? And another twist to mobile detailers, especially for those who are further north, is, you know, the 3 seasonality of the business, right? And that risk retention of quality staff, right? So there's a whole bunch of things, right?
Yeah, it's true. So to try and answer that briefly for you.
In 7 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. 7 minutes or less. Okay. So no pressure. So I think a few things is one, because I'll deal with two things here. Is one, scaling the actual business itself, regardless if it's a shop or you stay mobile. But then I'll also deal with the transition of, you know, the scaling up or changing the business model from mobile to a shop. So it's a difficult transition in one sense for many because they don't ask their existing customers questions. So for us, for example, we just stopped doing our mobile windshields for a period of time, just a period of time, mainly because with COVID, it's way too much headache now you go to someone's house and you're socially distant. You have to wipe down the car when you're done. Like we wipe down the cars at our shop, sure. But when you're, changing a windshield and it's like -20, like it's just different, right?
That's only because of winter, because of the winter aspect, or even all year?
Because, all year we don't have to do this this way, but we're shutting down the mobile detailing, the mobile windshield replacement right now, even if it comes springtime. Just for right now, because of the procedures that are in place right now with COVID.
Right.
We may revisit that, but there's just so much headache involved with it. Like, for example, we'll book a job to go to someone's house, and then next thing you know, they're like, one of the members of my family has COVID, so we have to, and I mean, that happens if it's a shop appointment too, but we just find it's a lot different where, let's say, one of our staff goes to their house, and then they're like, oh, someone in my house tested positive, they call our shop, now our main tech is off, and this and that. It's just a logistical nightmare. Yeah, so we've decided to just stop it, because the other part of it too is like when our guys go to the house, there's a whole procedure with the owner of the house, getting the keys, and he's wearing the mask, and it's, when they come to the shop, we're in and out, the job is done in an hour, right? And that includes like the drying time for the glue. The mobile appointments, it's around 3 hours. So we just with travel time and stuff, we realized, people don't want to pay that much more for the convenience of getting the windshield replaced. So what we've realized is just keep it at shop only. They can drive in. And instead what we do is we give them a mini detail for free. So you come in, now they have a bonus. It's like, yeah, we've temporarily stopped this. But we didn't just jump to that conclusion. So the point of this story is that what we did is we asked our existing customers. We called up some of the people that, previously used us before. And we said, if you had to replace a windshield again, would you be okay with driving into our shop? We know you did a mobile service last time. We're looking at discontinuing that service for the time being. We explained in 3 bullet points the reasons why. And we said, we're just asking people's feedback because we want to maintain that service level. What we found is that through a lot of these calls, everyone was in total agreement. They were like, no problem. I don't mind coming to the shop at all, especially with the mini detail. And what we did is we told them we're thinking of one of the following things. They chose the mini detail. So now we were prepared with information. We said, okay, so we can discontinue the mobile service. So if I was in a position where I had a mobile detailing business and I was looking at a shop, the first question I would ask myself wouldn't even be, am I going to be able to pay for, like the 3 months worth of the shop rent before I have to bring in business? Or what about how much is the heating or the tax or the water bill or whatever? I wouldn't even ask any of those questions. I would ask my existing customers, I'm looking at getting a shop. I'm not sure if it's going to be seen as an upgrade or a downgrade. What are your thoughts? Am I going to lose you as a customer if I do that? Because if you talk to your customers and the majority say like, I'm not interested, and then right there it tells you the real question is, do you want to start from scratch again? Because if you're going to lose all your mobile customers, you're starting from scratch. So the question now changes from, can I afford a shop or should I get a shop, to, can I afford to start over? So that's how I would look at things, is ask the existing customers. And man, they trusted you with their vehicle. They're going to give you feedback,
right?
And they're going to want to use you again, assuming they were happy, that they're going to give you honest feedback as well. Like, no, I honestly, I really like the convenience of you being mobile. Then the question shifts to, should I be both? Maybe mobile for some people, but for a surcharge, and then in the shop for others, maybe find a way to do a pickup drop off, or, all right, see you, Mike. I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat and I'm in robot mode.
You read your AI robot comments.
Exactly. And I think it is record. Yeah, it says recording. Good. So I can upload it. See, now that I've learned how to do all this, I tried to do the Facebook live streaming, couldn't figure it out. So anyway, I'll figure that out next time. But as for scaling the actual business itself, whether it's mobile or it's a shop, that's a different story. And really, it all comes down to the initial structure, I would say. If you've already started to scale by getting 1 employee or 2 employees or something, you've kind of already got the process in place. It's just you have to figure out how to train that person. So take that person.
It's the comfort.
Exactly. And so the best way to do it is, and so you do shadowing. So any new person that comes in, they shadow the other person, and then you just kind of oversee to give feedback, stuff like that. But I think the most difficult part is starting from kind of ground zero where like you're the one that's primarily active in the business, and you've got to now trust that with someone else. Exactly. And so a big problem people have, I think, is can I trust that person to do it, and why wouldn't they want to do it for themselves, right? But the reality is the majority of people can't do this on their own. Like they can't run a business on their own. There's not really any training for it throughout school unless you go to like a specialized school or you've always been into, you know, like entrepreneurship and stuff like that. That most of them are just 9-to-5 people. And so there's no fear there for me. We've had guys come work at our shop, learn our way of doing things, start up their own business. My business partner at the time was vexed. He was so mad. He's like, I can't believe we paid all that money training them, and then they go start their own thing. I said, don't worry about it. Who cares? First off, the customers he's going to take, he has to undercut us in price, so he's going to undercut us in service as well. So don't worry about it. It's just a waiting game at this point. 6 months from now, he's going to be applying here again, and we're going to tell him sorry. You know, like it's that simple. And sure enough, it happened twice, both of them out of business. And it's just, that's what happens most of the time. Now, that being said, I think there is a level of fear that comes with hiring people, and including myself. Even during COVID, we hired people during the pandemic, and that was scary because it's like, who knows? Anything could happen.
And Shawn, are you more concerned with initial quality of the candidate or retention? Or both? Retention. Okay.
Retention.
So so, and this is my challenge, and probably others too that have maybe a mobile detailing business, you know, in northern US and or in Canada, like where we are. Yeah. You know, you lose those 2-3 months in the year where the odd time, you know, business is slow these days, especially after snowstorm yesterday, right?
Sure.
So there's always that question, how do I make this a sustainable 12-month business? Okay. Beyond just myself and maybe one staff, right? Or myself. Because for myself, whatever, 2 months, okay, I take it kind of easy, build up, you know, the business side in these downtime periods in the winter, right? Sure. Where, you know, maybe others too can do that. But how do I, you know, attract, you know, candidates to work in my company when it's only like a 9-month job?
9-month job, sure.
You know, so that's where I'm thinking, maybe I have to take the plunge and get a shop, right? Or maybe I think, as you mentioned in some other podcasts or chats and all over the place, is partner with maybe a tint shop, right?
Yeah,
a local tint shop, or
I was just about to say
baby steps, right? So
yeah, I was about to say that a lot of these guys. So the best way to do it, in my opinion, if we were in your shoes, where we were mobile only and we were looking at how to structure this, and it was seasonal, what I would do is I would approach tint shops that, number one, usually are also experiencing a slower period. So they're looking for ways to supplement their income too. They would be happy if they had access to a stream of cars. And that's what you could offer them. So you actually have something to bring them. It's not just, hey, I need somewhere that I can, you know, run my business. It's no, I need somewhere where I can bring this stream of cars for you guys to upsell. And even better, the icing on top is that you won't have to upsell. I'm going to upsell. And so what we can do is this. Find a number, whatever that is what I would ask them. That's the number of upsells that I need to hit in a month where you don't charge me a dime to operate out of your shop. That's what I'm going to do. No risk to you. I'm the one taking the risk. And if I don't meet that quota,
then I'll pay you
whatever the number is, then I'll pay you X. Exactly. And so that way it becomes, they can still upsell to the customers when they're there. You know what I mean? But then also you're going to be upselling. And now, I mean, I'm not suggesting that they could take that sale from you. I'm saying that if you bring in a customer, they also have the opportunity to talk to the customer when the customer is waiting or whatever the case may be. But that's the benefit you're bringing to them, is that I'm bringing a stream of people in here, right? And you can make it clear, I have no intention of doing tint, but I would like to have you do the tints and we can work together in harmony. The other advantage for them is that it's like, listen, while I'm only going to be here in the winter months indoors, all the other months, I'm also going to be upselling your tint because I'm already doing that. And so what it means is that for those jobs now, you might find that, hey, I could structure the business like this. If they want to get a tint done and a detail at the same time, well, you book them at the shop. So now you're able to use the shop, but under the same circumstances where you hit that quota, you're not paying anything. You do the detail there, they're getting the tint done. So now you start to separate things. It'll be a good test for you to see, should I get a shop or not? Because if you can consistently throughout all months do that,
that's fantastic. Yeah.
Then you do the reverse. Then you are detailing out of your shop and you find a tinter to come to your shop.
Yeah.
Right?
As you have done now, or as you are in now, right?
Exactly. And so, because that's what we did. We had a tinter coming to us initially, right? And so the exact same thing. So really you actually have a good value proposition for them, is that I'm bringing you a steady stream of vehicles, right? So they'll be happy with that. Trust me. And just find out whatever the number is. And the advantage is you can go to 5 or 6 of them and you can say the same thing. Like, I want to work with you. What's your best offer? And choose whichever one makes most sense based on its location, based on the reviews or whatever it is. Assess them as a partner, right? And so that's a good way to do it. And the beautiful thing is this. You don't just have to do it at one shop. You could find a place that does windshields. All they do is windshields. You say the same thing. And so now what happens is if you see a guy come in for a detail and he's got a cracked windshield, you say, hey, I could get that windshield fixed for you too. Or when you're talking to him on the phone, be like, we usually just ask because we're going to be cleaning the glass. Do you have a cracked windshield at the moment? No, my windshield's fine. Okay, great. Oh yeah, actually I have a big crack in the middle. Oh, you know what? Great. What if I could get that windshield replaced for you at the same time? Or maybe it's just a chip. Hey, I can get the chip fixed and you don't even have to pay a dime for it because it'll be covered under your insurance. The insurance is going to cover it, but they won't actually ding you on your premium. So it doesn't cost you anything. The guy that's repairing that chip, he's going to give you a kiss. I'm telling you, because when we do the insurance jobs,
I don't know if I want that, but yes.
Yeah. Fair enough. So you'll be so happy though, because $90 is what we get for a chip fix from insurance. But if I'm selling it to just a regular customer retail, $60 is what we charge. But the insurance jobs, we charge $90, but the customer doesn't pay. The insurance pays because that's their maximum before it dings your insurance. So we charge them $90. For the insurance company, they're happy because they know your windshield is now safe. They're not going to get a lawsuit. Customer's happy. The chip is fixed. We're happy because we did the job.
The synergy, so fantastic synergy. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the best way. Like when people ask me all the time, they're like, how do I get new business? How do I do this and that? The first thing I always tell them is work with the other businesses around you because they're all asking the same question. They're all asking the same question. The difference is this. You're approaching them as someone that has the customers. It's different if it's a marketing agency and they call and they say, hey, Joseph, I could bring you 100 qualified leads in the next 90 days. They don't actually have the customers. So you're like, where are you going to get them for? All of a sudden you have 1,000 questions and they may or may not deliver, but you're actually coming saying, my customers that are coming to me right now.
Local customers, local businesses.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the value of that. Like think about yourself. If it was true that I could get you 100 new customers in the next 30 days, you would have an idea in your head of what it costs you to acquire each customer, what you'd be willing to pay. That's the number, that's the value of what you're bringing to that business, right? So if they know that every customer is going to cost me, $50 for acquisition, okay, and you're going to bring me 100 customers, holy crap, that's your value. So that's what you're bringing. And so, and you can do the same thing with like barbershops and stuff if we're talking just general business, but in terms of scaling, that's what I would do is to protect yourself from the winter months, partner up like that.
And not even winter, and sorry to interject, but you made me think, because, a lot of mobile detailers, I think we're all in the same boat, is that there's only, for example, ceramic, right? Ceramic coatings. There's only so much of that you can do outdoors.
It's true. Okay.
You need that, all the environmentals set, right? You need a controlled 100%. Environment and so on. Obviously, you know that.
Yeah.
So it could even be a 12-month arrangement 100%. With that Tint Shop example, not just a winter. Winter 100%. Would work, right? Whatever business comes in terms of interior, exterior detailing, maybe ceramic, but in the summer, it could even be used for, the ceramic coatings, right? The more 100%. Professional ones 100%. That, you can't really do outdoors in the baking sun.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Or in the humidity, right?
It's true, because even us, like we tried mobile tinting. I know some guys do it. But I tell you, it's different because you got to keep those windows clean. Yeah. And like the minute you get any dust or anything that kicks up with the wind and stuff, it's a pain. So we don't do it. And we do it in the shop in a controlled environment. It makes sense. Yeah. But we had to build up the volume for it. And so that's where I did it through subcontractors. And that's how we scaled up our services. And so it's the same thing. And then what you'll find is that you're bringing so much business and you're busy all year round. Then you're going to be like, okay, the only thing that makes sense is to relieve that pain point and get a shop. And that's where, but you're going to have that confidence because you're going to be like, okay, all my customers are already coming to a shop.
Yeah.
So they won't mind if it's down the road or something like that. Versus right now, it's a different conversation. You're replacing the benefits that you're selling to your customers now, which is the convenience at home, all that.
Yeah.
You're taking away from the customer. So they're like, well, hold on. I chose you because you sold me on the convenience and this and that. Now you're telling me I'm losing all those benefits. So what's in it for me? And that's where it's a different conversation. But if you start to split it up where there are benefits to them coming to the shop, it slowly transitions in that direction. And it's the only reason why I still believe in having a shop to this day is because having a central place, it's a lot more efficient. So you can, like, our competition is, you know, pushing the convenience and those value adds. We come to your house and this and that, no travel time. We push the other thing to them, which is get your car fully cleaned in an hour. You know what I mean? Like, have it looked at in a controlled environment where we can, you know, assess your dings, we can do your tint, we can do all these other things.
Because SOPs and variables are top notch in a controlled environment, whereas, you know, mobile detailing, there's a whole bunch of variables, right?
Exactly.
Even as much as the driveway, is it inclined? Are you on rocks? Are you on soil? Sometimes on grass. There's a whole bunch of,
there's so much stuff. Exactly. And that's where, you know, we've decided to take that route. And then like we've even had some customers lately, we've been pitching them on the fact that our prices are inflation proof. Is that because we have fixed costs of things for the most part, we can maintain these prices. But when you're dealing with, you know, fluctuating gas prices,
and you fix the cost of food, Shawn.
The cost of no, it's okay. I took out a second mortgage and bought a basket of tomatoes. It's okay. Pretty much. Holy crap! I just realized I'm in. We have a garden room in our house, and my wife's got her nursery here. But the lights. It's the first time I actually saw myself on the camera. It's like shining. Looks like I'm in a tanning bed. But yeah, I'm surrounded by plants right now. It's quite nice actually. So we have an acre property in not here, my other place. And we have like a huge garden grow thing there. And so we're really big into it, like growing our own food and all that kind of stuff. But we start them here in the wintertime, you know, so we start different things and then we transplant them there. And but it's actually a sad story. My Tamarillo died recently. I was quite upset. It's a plant from Colombia. It grows these it translates into, it's a tree tomato basically. Really sweet fruit. But anyway, it was like 5 feet tall. It was just about to get to the point of like bearing fruit and stuff, and it died. Yeah, it got an infestation of these bugs. Yeah, life goes on. That's a different struggle. That's
yeah.
But yeah, so I hope that was helpful with I know I went over the 7 minutes, but I hope I helped with some of the scaling side of things. That's what I would do is just, it's mostly like,
I love the idea.
Yeah, cool.
I love the idea is, you know, because people I think have the mindset, including myself, you have to have more of that stability. You need that foundation, which is a shop. Right, you can still do mobile, but you need a shop. But to take the plunge to go to a shop and then, you know, have staff, that's big bucks, right? It's a big risk.
It is.
And like you said, it touches on maybe removing the convenience. You have the customer base 100%. For that. There's a whole bunch of questions. But to ease that transition, I love the idea that, you know, you made it a little bit more granular in this conversation, is how to work with and how to approach these tint shops. Right? Yeah. I think, and maybe Shawn, let me ask you this. Is it based on your volumes? Would it make more sense to work with a tint shop than a glass repair shop? Because I'm just thinking logically, as a consumer, I would think people there's more volume in tinting than people having broken windshields.
Yes and no. Yeah, yes, because every car can be tinted, but the difference is that a lot of cars are already tinted or can't be tinted. Like for example, like a lot of work trucks can't be tinted. Because the bosses want them seen. But that being said, sometimes people, if you're a painter or something, you do want your work truck tinted so people don't steal your tools. So it does go both ways. Definitely there's less, you know, broken glass than people wanting to get vehicles tinted. I will agree with that 100%. The main difference I would say is that seasonality wise, they're going to flip. So before summer, during summer, people want their car tinted. It's hot outside. So they just got a new car for summer, you know, they want it, you know, to look cool and stuff like that. Wintertime with the fluctuating temperatures, you're going to get a lot more broken glass. So us, for example, you know, little rock comes up because the outside's freezing and the inside you've got the heat blasting, the whole thing. Yeah. So we notice a change like that for sure. But that's where I would honestly, I would do both. I would do both of them. And then once you have an agreement with them, you could list both on your website saying like, you know, like list it as an option. Like we can do mobile, but then we can also book here and
do these services, XYZ example, ceramic or in the winter, you know, you can do
and so you could even make a promo package, talk to the guys you're going to partner with and say, listen, if someone comes in for a detail and a tint, I'm willing to offer this price as a promo. What can you do? And maybe sometimes people are hesitant to give away money. Say, give away something else. And here's what you can tell them, because coming from tinting, I know what they'll want to give away. The sun strip.
On the top of the windshield.
Our costs on that is usually nothing, because when we cut out a back window, we're left usually with a space.
We'll go in the garbage anyway.
Exactly. So we literally, when we cut out a back window, we always pull up an F-150 and we print out the sun visor at the same time, or the sun strip at the same time, and get that cut. And then we put it into a box labeled with whatever year it was. Because we get a lot of those trucks that come in, they're like, geez, I'm always going to the job site. It's bright and early. The sunrise is right in my face. Oh, no problem. We'll put that on for you. $20. Boom. Takes 10 seconds. It was going in the garbage. You know what I mean? So we pump those out like crazy. If someone comes in and let's say we forgot to do the trunk for some reason, sometimes it happens. And, you know, we're so busy, we just forgot to vacuum out the trunk. They come in and they let's say they left us a bad review. We'll call them. We'll be like, hey, listen, like there was no need to leave a bad review. We'll fix whatever problem it is. Bring the car back in. But we want to make it worth it for you. We have one of the few gifts. And we say we have, and this is how we got 5 stars so high, is because any negative ones, we reach out to them, work it out with them. Next thing you know, they leave us a 4 or they leave us a 5, you know, stuff like that. And it's by giving away those kinds of things. But there was something I wanted to mention though with the Tint Shop, windshield guys. Oh, yes. Because you're in Ontario, same province as me, boats. Do you do ceramic coatings now or?
Yeah,
getting into it? Yeah?
But you know, it's a matter of volume, right? The volume is not there just because.
How close are you to the water, like to a marina or something?
Yeah, I've had customers, very affluent customers, that have asked me, and I kind of, you know, at the time, a year or two ago, a year and a half ago, I wasn't ready, but yes, I'm right near Lake Ontario, I mean, 20 kilometers away.
Beautiful. So here's what you do. Go to the yacht clubs. Exactly. No, go to the yacht clubs. The reason is this. Anytime a boat, I can't remember what the word is, but it's like lake hopping. I don't know what the term is. There's a term for it, but I can't remember what it is now. But it's mandatory in Ontario. It's law. If you take your boat from one lake and you're going to bring it into another body of water, you have to thoroughly clean the hull. It's mandatory because there's this stuff that gets transported there by birds, and it's like AIDS for fish. And so it only happens when it reaches another lake where it didn't exist, and then the population explodes and kills the fish. So it's mandatory by Fisheries Canada, and it's only in Ontario as far as I know, but it's been mandatory.
Like Lake Ontario to the St. Lawrence River, or
exactly any body of water to exactly. So if someone goes from Lake Ontario and they want to go there, or maybe they're bringing their boat somewhere else, or they're prepping a boat for sale, that hull has to be cleaned. Now, cleaning a hull is a pain in the ass, okay? Unless it's been ceramic coated.
Right.
Then it's a piece of cake. So that's how that can be sold. And honestly, it's the easiest thing in the world, because they're not trying to like restore the paint or lock in the luster. They just need it coated. So clean it and coat it, and then you're good to go, right? So anyway, something to look at. So one of our clients is the Yacht Club here, and it started because I have a printing company as well, and we print their membership cards. And then through that, you know, just natural course of discussion was, hey, we also own an auto shop, and we do marine ceramic coatings, you know, so it was just a natural progression.
So is that something you would do mobile then?
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Exactly. In that case, yes. Yeah, we don't bring the boats in. They're way too big.
Yeah, so how do you do that? So the ceramic coating, outdoors, the controlled environments, all that stuff, right?
Absolutely. So just pick a day, look at the forecast. You might have to change it up, but what you do is ideally we don't go there for one boat. We line up, you know, like 3-4 boats. Then that's when you go. But the thing is too, where they're stored as well, because it's usually like the boat's out of the water, it's boat storage. And so usually they have their own controlled environment there, wherever they're storing the boats. So they just pull the boat in, and it's usually kind of like an airplane hangar type thing. And they pull the boat in. That's where they do like any repairs they have to do. They pull the boat in. So we have a semi-controlled environment.
It's not like at the dock, half
no, exactly. Yeah, it's not.
You can't do anything there.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like in someone's cottage or something. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But that being said, there's also going to be storage facilities near you that also offer boat storage. So if you find those places, it could be as simple as giving them a pamphlet and tell them, listen, this is what we charge. You put your own markups on it, whatever you want, and we'll reprint the flyers for you. I'll drop off a box of flyers with your company and your logo and your pricing on it. And you already know what our price is. We'll come here, do the work. The customer can pay you and you pay us, or they pay us the full price, and then we give you the difference. Whatever you want, we'll make it happen. But that's a great way as well, is find places where these vehicles are going to be in a semi-controlled environment where you can do the work. Someone might be, you know, hey, I'm looking at boat storage. They show up to drop off their boat. They see the pamphlet there, and they're like, oh, geez, you know, marine ceramic coating, because it's mandatory by law to clean my hull and this and that. You know, it's all these little things. If it generates you 10 sales a year, you know what I mean? My commission's only 20%, so don't worry about it. Just kidding. That's free advice. Free advice.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, good stuff. So, okay, it's almost 3 o'clock. I'm going to get going so I can get back to coding for you guys. But yeah, so I guess next week we'll do it. It'll be a similar type format, but also, Darren, you missed this, but I was telling Joseph that I'm open to basically answer some questions as well on the software too. So if you have some like specifics, I know you guys already asked me a million things already. I answer them quickly, but if you need something answered live, I can walk you through and show you as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Appreciate it.
Awesome. How'd the interview go?
Really good.
Yeah, awesome. New hire? Yeah?
Probably will be, yeah.
Awesome, man. That's good, man.
Yep.
I hope he brings you bountiful loads of cash.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Awesome. Good stuff. Right. And Marty, are you still there? I don't know. He's in the airport.
I'm still here.
Hey, buddy. There you go. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to interrupt.
I'm listening in. We're
awesome.
into the mega store known as Buc-ee's.
Oh, man. Right on. I was trying not to interrupt you too much because I know you're in the airport today. But listen, safe flight as well. Well, not for you, safe drive for you, and safe flight for, I think it's your wife's cousin?
Daughter. Yeah.
Daughter.
She's gone, so we're driving now back. So, man, it's a good time to hop off. Enjoyed the conversation.
Perfect. Awesome. And this one was recorded too, so I'll upload it shortly there so that everyone else that couldn't attend can, take away these golden nuggets. Awesome. Hey, there he is. Man with the plan. All right, awesome, guys. So we'll see you next week, same time, 12:30 Eastern. No, 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, mate.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
Anytime.
guys.
All right, guys.